You probably did at least 3 things today that are actively destroying your organs. And the worst part? You were told these things were good for you, maybe even necessary. Your parents did them. Your doctor recommended them. Wellness influencers built entire careers around them. But here's what nobody's telling you. Some of the most normal, most accepted, most obvious health routines are quietly breaking down your body from the inside. And I'm not talking about the stuff you know is bad. I'm not talking about junk food or skipping the gym or staying up too late. I'm talking about the things you do because you're trying to be healthy. The things you defend if someone questioned them. The things that make you feel responsible, disciplined, like you're taking care of yourself. Those things. And by the end of this video, you're going to realize that a lot of what you've been taught about health isn't just wrong, it's the opposite of the truth. We're going through 8 of these routines, and they get progressively worse. Number 1 is something you'll probably do within an hour of finishing this video, and it's arguably more destructive than everything else combined. So, let's start with something almost everyone does wrong every single day, and thinks they're doing themselves a favor. You wake up. First thing you do? Grab water. Maybe you chug a full glass before your feet even hit the floor. Maybe you carry a water bottle everywhere, sipping constantly, trying to hit that magic number everyone talks about. 8 glasses a day. Stay hydrated. Hydration is life. Wellness influencers have made water into a personality trait. There are people who genuinely believe that if you're not peeing clear 8 times a day, you're failing at being human. And look, I get it. Water is important, obviously. But here's the thing nobody wants to admit because it ruins the entire hydration industrial complex. You can absolutely overdo it. And when you do, you're not just being overly cautious. You're putting your kidneys through a kind of stress they were never designed to handle. Let me explain what's actually happening inside your body when you force down water you don't need. Your kidneys filter your blood. That's their job. They pull out waste. They balance electrolytes. They regulate fluid levels. It's a precise system. And it works really well when you let it do its thing. But your kidneys can only process about 800 to 1,000 milliliters of water per hour. That's it. Not because they're weak, because that's the safe operational limit before things start breaking down. When you drink beyond that, consistently, you're not hydrating. You're flooding. And when you flood your system, your blood becomes diluted. Sodium levels drop. That's called hyponatremia. And it's not some fringe condition. It's water poisoning. Your cells start swelling because they're trying to balance the sodium concentration. And when brain cells swell, you get headaches, confusion, nausea. In severe cases, seizures, coma, death. And this isn't hypothetical. Athletes die from this. Marathon runners who overhydrate during races. People doing intense workouts who think more water equals better recovery. It happens. But even if you're not chugging gallons during a marathon, chronic overhydration is still a problem. Because every time you drink more than your kidneys can handle, they have to work harder, filter faster, compensate. Over months and years, that damages the nephrons, the functional units inside your kidneys. And unlike a lot of cells in your body, nephrons don't regenerate. Once they're damaged, they're done. You're working with whatever's left. And here's the part that should make you angry. The 8 glasses a day thing? Total myth. It came from a 1945 recommendation that said humans need about 2.5 liters of water daily, which is true. But that recommendation included water from food. Fruits, vegetables, soups, everything. Somehow, over the decades, that got twisted into drink 8 separate glasses of pure water, or you're dehydrated. And now, we've got an entire culture of people forcing down water they don't need. Peeing every 30 minutes and thinking they're optimizing their health. Meanwhile, their kidneys are screaming. Here's the actual truth. Your body has a hydration indicator. It's called thirst. It's been working for hundreds of thousands of years. When you need water, you feel thirsty. When you don't, you don't. It's not complicated. We evolved in environments where water was scarce. Our ancestors didn't walk around with gallon jugs. They drank when they found water, and their bodies adapted. Your body is still running that same software. And yet, here we are in 2026, with people setting phone alarms to remind them to drink water they don't want, because some influencer said hydration is self-care. It's not. It's kidneys working overtime for no reason. Now, if you think that's bad, let's talk about what you're doing to your teeth. Because this one's going to make you question everything your dentist ever told you. You've been taught to brush your teeth after every meal, right? Especially breakfast. You wake up, you eat, you brush. That's the routine. That's what responsible people do. And if you're really on top of it, maybe you brush after lunch too, after coffee, after anything acidic, because you want to get that stuff off your teeth before it does damage. Makes sense, right? Except it doesn't. Because what you're actually doing is taking acid that's already softening your enamel and scrubbing it deeper into your teeth. Let me break down what happens in your mouth after you eat. When you consume anything, especially anything with sugar, carbs, or acid, your mouth's pH drops. It becomes acidic. That's normal. It's supposed to happen. Your enamel, which is the hardest substance in your body, can handle it. But here's the key. It needs time. When your mouth is acidic, your enamel temporarily softens. Not a lot, but enough. And your saliva, which is slightly alkaline, needs about 30 to 60 minutes to neutralize that acid and re-harden your enamel. That's the natural cycle. Acid, softening, neutralization, hardening. Your mouth knows what it's doing, but when you brush your teeth immediately after eating, you're interrupting that cycle at the worst possible moment. You're taking a brush, which is abrasive by design, and scrubbing it across softened enamel. You're not cleaning your teeth. You're sanding them. You're physically removing microscopic layers of enamel with every brush stroke. And that fresh, clean feeling you get, that's not health. That's enamel erosion. You're feeling the texture of damaged teeth. And it gets worse. Because most people brush after breakfast, right? That's the big one. You wake up, you have coffee, maybe some toast, maybe orange juice, and then you brush. But think about what you just consumed. Coffee is acidic. Orange juice is very acidic. Even whole wheat toast breaks down into sugars that bacteria convert into acid. Your mouth is a pH disaster zone. And then you go in with toothpaste, which also has abrasives in it to help scrub off plaque. And you spread all that acid around while simultaneously grinding away the protective layer of your teeth. Dentists know this, by the way. The research has been clear for years. You're supposed to wait at least an hour after eating before you brush. Or, if you can't wait, rinse with water and brush before breakfast, not after. Because brushing before eating gives your teeth a fluoride coating that actually protects them during the acid attack. Brushing after just makes the attack worse. But here's why you've never heard this from your dentist. Because the American Dental Association, the organization that writes the guidelines, is funded by companies that sell toothpaste, toothbrushes, and mouthwash. They want you brushing 3 times a day. More brushing equals more product. They're not lying to you. They're just not updating outdated advice because the outdated advice is profitable. So you keep brushing right after meals, thinking you're preventing cavities, when you're actually accelerating the exact damage you're trying to avoid. Your teeth are getting thinner, more sensitive, more prone to cavities, and you're doing it to yourself, twice a day, with the best intentions. But at least your teeth are something you can see. You can notice sensitivity. You can catch problems. What you can't see is what's happening to your spine. And this one's going to hurt, because a lot of you have spent serious money trying to fix this. You've bought the ergonomic chair, the standing desk, the lumbar support pillow. Maybe you've even seen a chiropractor or a physical therapist who told you to sit up straight, shoulders back, core engaged. You've been told that posture is everything, that if you just sit correctly, you'll avoid back pain. And if you're slouching, you're doomed. Except that's not how spines work, at all. Here's the thing. Your spine is not a stack of blocks that needs to be perfectly aligned. It's a dynamic structure that's designed to move, constantly, in every direction. Flexion, extension, rotation, lateral bending. That's what it's built for. And the discs between your vertebrae, those little cushions that everyone's so worried about, they don't have blood supply. They can't get nutrients the way your other tissues do. Instead, they rely on pressure changes. When you move, the discs compress and decompress, and that pumping action pulls in nutrients and pushes out waste. It's like a sponge. Squeeze it, release it, squeeze it, release it. That's how your discs stay healthy. But when you sit in one position, even if it's the perfect ergonomic position, you're compressing the same part of the same discs for hours. No movement, no pressure changes, no nutrient flow. those discs start to degenerate. They dry out. They crack. And over years, that leads to herniation, chronic pain, nerve issues. All the things the ergonomic chair was supposed to prevent. And here's the kicker. Studies have actually shown that people who use ergonomic chairs and maintain perfect posture have higher rates of disc degeneration than people who shift around, slouch, lean, and generally move however feels comfortable. Because the people who are moving, even if they're moving wrong, are keeping their discs alive. The people locked into ergonomic positions are starving their spines. And don't even get me started on standing desks, because standing in one position is just as bad as sitting in one position. You're still static. You're still compressing the same structures. You've just traded one problem for another, and you paid $600 for the privilege. The actual solution? Move. A lot. Constantly. Sit however you want, but don't stay there. Stand up, walk around, stretch, fidget. Your grandmother, who everyone said had terrible posture because she was always shifting and leaning and getting up to do things, probably had a healthier spine than you do with your $200 Herman Miller chair. Because her spine was doing what spines are supposed to do. Move. Yours is locked in place, slowly dying, while you sit there feeling virtuous about your posture. Now let's talk about sleep, because this is where things get psychological. You've been told that sleep is sacred, that you need exactly 8 hours, that you need to optimize it, track it. There are apps that monitor your REM cycles, devices that measure your heart rate variability. People buy blackout curtains, white noise machines, weighted blankets, magnesium supplements, blue light blocking glasses. They set their thermostats to exactly 68 degrees. They follow sleep hygiene rules like it's a religion. And if they don't get perfect sleep, they panic. They feel like they've failed. They spend the next day telling everyone how tired they are, how bad their sleep was, how they only got 6.5 hours instead of 8. And here's the problem. That anxiety about sleep is doing more damage than the imperfect sleep ever could. Let me explain what's happening. Sleep need is not universal. It's not 8 hours for everyone. The actual range is 7 to 9 hours, and it varies by individual. Some people genuinely need 9. Some people function great on 7, but we've turned 8 hours into this rigid rule, and anyone who doesn't hit it feels broken. Then you add in the tracking devices, and those devices are wildly inaccurate. They can estimate sleep stages, but they're wrong about 30% of the time. They can't measure brainwaves. They're guessing based on movement and heart rate, but people trust them. And when the app says you had terrible REM sleep, you believe it. Even if you actually slept fine, even if you feel rested. The app said it was bad, so it must be bad. And that creates something called a nocebo effect, the opposite of placebo. You expect to feel tired because the data said your sleep was poor, so you do feel tired. Your belief creates the reality, and then, because you're worried about your sleep, you start stressing about it. You go to bed anxious. You check the clock. You wonder if you're in REM yet. You wake up in the middle of the night, which is completely normal, by the way, and you panic because you think you've ruined your sleep cycle. All of that stress releases cortisol, and cortisol is neurotoxic. It literally damages your brain. Specifically, it degrades neurons in your hippocampus, which is critical for memory and learning. So, you're lying there, trying to optimize your brain health with perfect sleep, and the stress of trying to optimize it is actively shrinking your brain. And here's the part that's going to make you laugh or cry. Pre-industrial humans didn't sleep in one 8-hour block. They slept in 2 phases. First sleep, wake up for an hour or 2 in the middle of the night. Second sleep. It was called biphasic sleep, and it was totally normal. People would wake up, do quiet activities, think, pray, have sex, whatever, and then go back to sleep. It wasn't insomnia, it was biology. But modern culture decided sleep has to be continuous. So now, when you wake up at 2 a.m., you think something's wrong. You think you have a sleep disorder. You start Googling. You buy more supplements. You download another app. Meanwhile, your brain is just following an ancient rhythm, and you're punishing it for being normal. The actual damage isn't coming from waking up at night. It's coming from the chronic stress you're creating by believing that waking up at night is a problem. Your sleep optimization routine is frying your brain. Not because you're doing it wrong, because you're doing it at all. Let's move to something you do every single morning, and this one's going to make you rethink everything you've been told about metabolism. You've heard it 1,000 times. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Don't skip it. It jumpstarts your metabolism. It gives you energy. If you skip breakfast, your body goes into starvation mode and holds on to fat. All of that. And because you've heard it so many times, from so many sources, you just accept it as fact. So you wake up, and even if you're not hungry, you eat. Because you're supposed to. Maybe it's cereal, toast, juice, oatmeal, something healthy. You're doing the responsible thing, except you're not. You're actually triggering a metabolic disaster that, over time, can lead to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Here's what's actually happening in your body when you wake up. Your cortisol levels spike. That's normal. It's called the cortisol awakening response, and it peaks about 30 to 45 minutes after you wake up. Cortisol's job, in this context, is to raise your blood glucose so you have energy to start the day. Your liver releases stored glucose. Your blood sugar goes up naturally. No food required. Your body is handling it. But then you eat breakfast. And if that breakfast includes carbs, which most breakfasts do, you're dumping even more glucose into a system that's already elevated. Your blood sugar spikes. Your pancreas has to release a huge amount of insulin to deal with it. But here's the problem. Because your cortisol is high, your cells are temporarily resistant to insulin. That's a normal part of the cortisol response. So your pancreas has to release even more insulin to force the glucose into your cells. You're creating this massive insulin spike every single morning, while your body is in a state that makes insulin less effective. And if you do this every day for years, your cells start to adapt. They become chronically resistant to insulin. Your pancreas has to work harder and harder to get the same result. Eventually, it can't keep up. Your blood sugar stays elevated, and that's type 2 diabetes. You've literally trained your body to ignore insulin by eating breakfast at the worst possible time. And the worst part? The whole breakfast is the most important meal thing isn't even based on science. It came from a marketing campaign. In 1944, a cereal company wanted to sell more product. So they started pushing the idea that everyone needs to eat breakfast. They funded studies. They lobbied nutrition organizations. And it worked. Now it's so ingrained in the culture that questioning it feels radical. But the research on intermittent fasting has been pretty clear. Delaying your first meal by a few hours until your cortisol comes down and your insulin sensitivity improves actually improves metabolic health. You're not starving. You're not slowing your metabolism. You're just eating when your body is ready to handle food. But instead, you're forcing down breakfast you don't want, thinking you're being healthy, while you're slowly teaching your cells to stop responding to insulin. And in 20 years, when you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, no one's going to connect it to your healthy breakfast routine. They're going to blame sugar, or inactivity, or genetics. Not the fact that you've been spiking your insulin every morning during a cortisol peak for 2 decades because a cereal company told your grandparents it was important. Now let's talk about something you probably did this morning, without even thinking about it. And this one's more immediately dangerous than anything we've covered so far. You took a shower, and chances are it was hot. Not warm, hot. Maybe really hot. Because that's what feels good. That's what relaxes you. Maybe you've even noticed over the years that you keep turning the temperature up a little higher. It's comforting. It's one of those little daily luxuries. Except it's not harmless. Because every time you take a hot shower, you're forcing your cardiovascular system through a kind of stress it's not designed to handle on a daily basis. Here's the mechanism. When you expose your skin to water above 105 degrees Fahrenheit, your blood vessels dilate rapidly. That's vasodilation. Your body is trying to cool itself down by increasing blood flow to the skin and releasing heat. That's fine in isolation. That's a normal response. But when you step out of that hot shower into cooler air, your blood vessels constrict just as rapidly. Vasoconstriction. And this cycle, rapid dilation, rapid constriction, puts stress on the endothelial cells that line your arteries. Those cells are responsible for keeping your blood vessels flexible, healthy, responsive. But when you force them through extreme temperature swings every single day, they start to lose elasticity. Your arteries get stiffer. And stiff arteries mean higher blood pressure. Higher blood pressure means increased risk of heart attack and stroke. You're essentially aging your cardiovascular system faster than it would age on its own. And you're doing it for 10 minutes every morning because it feels nice. But it's not just your arteries. Your skin is taking damage too. Hot water strips away the natural oils that protect your skin barrier. And when you remove those oils, your sebaceous glands go into overdrive trying to replace them. That's why people who take really hot showers often have oily skin or acne. They think they're getting cleaner, but they're actually triggering rebound oil production and inflammation. And that clean feeling you get from a hot shower, that's not cleanliness. That's your skin barrier breaking down. Lukewarm water, around 90 to 95 degrees, cleans just as effectively. Soap does the work. Water temperature doesn't. But we've all been conditioned to think that hot equals clean, so we keep turning up the heat. And every time we do, we're trading a few minutes of comfort for measurable vascular damage. Now, this isn't going to kill you tomorrow, but if you've been taking hot showers every day for 10, 20, 30 years, your arteries are not in the same condition they would be if you'd been using warm water. They're stiffer, less responsive, more prone to hypertension. And hypertension is one of the biggest risk factors for the two leading causes of death, heart disease and stroke. So yeah, your morning shower routine is quietly aging your cardiovascular system. And no one told you because it seems too trivial to matter. But trivial things, done every single day for decades, add up. All right, let's talk about something you probably have in your cabinet right now. Maybe you took it this morning. Maybe you take it every single day because you think it's responsible. Multivitamins, the ultimate health insurance, right? Fill in the nutritional gaps, boost your immune system, just in case you're not getting everything from your diet. Doctors recommend them. Nutritionists recommend them. They're everywhere, and they seem so harmless. I mean, they're vitamins. What's the worst that could happen? Turns out, a lot. Because what most people don't realize is that not all vitamins leave your body if you take too much. Water-soluble vitamins, like vitamin C and the B vitamins, you pee out. Take too much, and you just have expensive urine. No big deal. But fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, don't leave. They accumulate. They get stored in your liver and in your fatty tissues. And if you're taking a multivitamin every day, you're getting synthetic versions of these vitamins in doses that your body doesn't need and can't easily get rid of. Over months and years, those doses build up. And when they build up past a certain threshold, they become toxic. Let's start with vitamin A. Most multivitamins contain it in the form of retinol palmitate, which is a synthetic version. And if you're taking a multi every day, plus eating foods fortified with vitamin A, plus maybe using skincare products with retinoids, you're stacking sources. Your liver stores all of it. And when you hit toxic levels, you develop hypervitaminosis A. Your liver starts to scar. That's fibrosis. And fibrosis, if it continues, becomes cirrhosis. That's irreversible liver damage. The same kind of liver damage alcoholics get, except you're getting it from your daily multivitamin. And because it happens slowly, you don't notice. You might feel tired, a little nauseous, but you don't connect it to the vitamins. You think you're just stressed or getting older. Meanwhile, your liver is quietly failing. Then there's vitamin D. Everyone's obsessed with vitamin D. And yes, deficiency is real, but the pendulum has swung so far in the other direction that now people are taking 5,000 or even 10,000 IU daily, thinking more is better. And a lot of multivitamins contain high doses because the industry knows people want it. But here's the problem. Too much vitamin D causes hypercalcemia. That means your blood calcium levels get too high. And when that happens, calcium starts depositing in places it shouldn't. Your kidneys, your arteries, your heart. You're essentially calcifying your soft tissues, kidney stones, vascular calcification, arrhythmias. And again, this happens slowly. You don't wake up one day with calcium deposits. It builds over years, and by the time it's causing symptoms, the damage is done. But the really damning part, the studies. There have been multiple large-scale studies looking at multivitamin use and mortality, and the results are consistent. People who take multivitamins regularly have higher mortality rates than people who don't. Not lower, higher, they're dying sooner. And the reason is pretty clear when you think about it. Because when you eat vitamins in food, they come with cofactors, enzymes, fiber, other nutrients that help your body absorb and use them in the right amounts. Your digestive system regulates how much you take in, but when you take a synthetic multivitamin, you're bypassing all of that. You're getting isolated nutrients in doses that your body has no natural mechanism to handle. It's a biological overdose. And your liver, which has to process everything you put in your body, treats it like a toxin. Because functionally, that's what it is. You paid money for a daily poison. You took it every morning, thinking you were being proactive about your health. And instead, you were slowly overloading your liver and calcifying your organs. And the worst part is, no one's going to tell you this. Because the supplement industry is barely regulated. They don't have to prove their products are safe or effective. They just have to avoid making claims that get them sued. So they keep selling you multivitamins, and you keep taking them, and your liver keeps accumulating fat-soluble vitamins it doesn't need, and the damage keeps building. Invisible, until it's too late to reverse. So, we've covered 7 things: your hydration obsession, your post-meal brushing, your ergonomic chair, your sleep tracking, your breakfast timing, your hot showers, your multivitamins. And all of them are bad, all of them are doing measurable damage. But none of them are number 1, because number 1 is different. Number 1 isn't about doing something wrong, it's about the thing you do to cope with the stress of trying to do everything right. And that's what makes it so insidious. You've been told that stress is the enemy, that you need to manage it, control it. So you meditate, you journal, you do breathing exercises, you take baths, you schedule me time, you see a therapist, you buy bath bombs and essential oils and apps that remind you to be mindful. You've built an entire routine around stress management, and every wellness influencer, every self-help book, every mental health professional tells you that this is good, this is healthy, this is how you protect yourself from burnout. Except it's not. Because the routine itself has become another source of stress. And the stress you're creating by trying to manage stress is worse than the original stress ever was. Let me explain. Stress, in its natural form, is supposed to be acute. Something threatens you. Your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. You respond. You fight. You run. You solve the problem. And then it's over. Your body returns to baseline. That's how the system is designed to work. It's not supposed to be pleasant, but it's not supposed to last. The problem is, modern life doesn't work that way. You're not running from predators. You're dealing with emails and deadlines and traffic and bills. Chronic low-level stressors that never fully resolve. And on top of that, you've been told that you need to manage this stress, which means you're now stressing about stress. You feel guilty if you don't meditate. You feel like you're failing if you skip your journaling. You feel anxious about not being calm enough. And all of that creates meta-stress, stress about the management of stress. And that keeps your cortisol elevated constantly, not high enough to force a resolution, but never low enough to let your body recover. You're stuck in this middle zone of chronic activation. And chronic cortisol does something really specific and really destructive. It shortens your telomeres. Telomeres are the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes. Every time your cells divide, your telomeres get a little shorter. That's normal aging. But cortisol accelerates that process. It speeds up telomere shortening. And when your telomeres get too short, your cells can't divide anymore. They either die or become senescent, which means they stop functioning properly and start releasing inflammatory signals that damage surrounding tissue. Shortened telomeres are directly linked to earlier onset of age-related diseases: cancer, cardiovascular disease, dementia, immune dysfunction. Your cells are aging faster because your stress management routine is keeping you in a state of perpetual low-level stress. And here's the paradox. Studies have shown that people with rigid stress management routines often have higher baseline cortisol than people who don't actively try to manage their stress. Because the people who aren't managing it aren't thinking about it. They're not adding another layer of pressure. They're not turning stress into a problem that needs a solution. They're just living. And their bodies, without the added burden of performance anxiety around relaxation, are actually less stressed. You're stress managing yourself into premature cellular death. The meditation app you use for 20 minutes every morning might be generating more cortisol than the work deadline you're trying to recover from. Because you're not actually recovering, you're adding another task, another thing to optimize, another thing to feel bad about if you don't do it perfectly. And your cells are paying the price. Your telomeres are shortening faster. Your biological age is outpacing your chronological age, and you're doing it in the name of self-care. So, let's recap. You're overhydrating your kidneys, you're acid scrubbing your enamel, you're starving your spinal discs with perfect posture, you're stress sleeping your way into a smaller hippocampus, you're insulin spiking every breakfast, you're vascularly aging in the shower, you're poisoning your liver with vitamins, and you're telomere shortening yourself with stress management. 8 normal routines. 8 things you were taught were healthy, responsible, smart. And all of them are breaking you down. And if you're sitting there feeling a little panicked right now, good. That means you are actually paying attention. That means you're capable of updating your beliefs when you get new information. Most people aren't. Most people will watch this, feel uncomfortable for about 12 minutes, and then do the exact same routines tomorrow, because it's easier to ignore the information than to change the behavior. But you're smarter than that, right? Look, your body is resilient. Most of this damage is reversible if you catch it early. Stop forcing water you don't need. Wait an hour after eating to brush, or brush before breakfast instead. Move constantly instead of sitting perfectly. Stop tracking your sleep and just sleep. Delay breakfast until your cortisol drops. Turn down the shower temperature. Throw out the multivitamins unless you have a diagnosed deficiency. And maybe, just maybe, stop trying so hard to manage your stress and let your body handle it the way it's been handling it for millennia. The problem was never that you weren't doing enough. The problem is that you were doing too much of the wrong things. And the institutions that told you to do them, wellness culture, the supplement industry, dental associations, ergonomic companies, they're not going to update their advice because their advice is profitable. So you have to update it yourself. And if this video made you irrationally angry at your multivitamins, or your ergonomic chair, or your meditation app, the algorithm needs to know that you're one of the few people who can actually handle uncomfortable information. Because if you don't tell it, it's just going to keep feeding you morning routine of billionaires garbage. So like, subscribe, whatever. And drop a comment telling me which one of these you were doing 10 minutes before you clicked this video, because I know it was at least one.